Hello, and welcome back to the No Score Review Show, where we have in-depth critique and nuanced discussion on the latest movies, television, and video games. I am your host, Nick Green, and today we are talking about the second part of the Barbenheimer event weekend of the summer, Oppenheimer, directed by Christopher Nolan. I have with me today Cole Parkinson and Piero Ciprian. Is that how you say your last name, Piero?
Yes, you got it.
Perfect. I should have
Nailed it.
asked you that before we started recording, but hey, you know what? A little bit of
Nailed it anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, spot on.
Yes, we are discussing Oppenheimer today, the latest film from Christopher Nolan. The first bit of this review will be spoiler free, so don't worry about any explicit details of the film in the first little bit here. We'll do an explicit warning before we get into all that stuff, but for now, we will just go over our general thoughts and what our expectations were going in. So, Cole, we'll start with you. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for
what were your
having me.
thoughts?
I loved it. I mean, I saw a perfect maybe comparison where somebody said that it's kind of like Schindler's List, where it's like it's such an immaculate film, but I don't know if I'll want to watch it again for several years.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel. I'm like, I loved every minute of it, but it's so heavy, especially the last half of the movie, that I don't know when I'll rewatch it. I'm gonna buy it and I'll rewatch it eventually, but man, was that just it might be Christopher Nolan's best movie. I don't think it's my favorite Chris Nolan movie, but it might be his best. Like it is so good. Just characters, acting wise, cinematography, everything. Like it's such a perfect film, really. Like 3 hours, it's long, but man, does it hit.
I was gonna say, yeah, not just tonally, but like runtime wise too. That really is not exactly the most rewatchable film.
Yeah.
No.
But it was a very good one. I'm personally not a huge I'm not crazy about Nolan like I am with maybe some other directors. But I will like go out and see it. Like he's a very eventized director, right? Like want to go see his films like day one in the theater. He's all about that theater experience.
And that's another thing. Like I don't think this movie will be nearly as cinematic, or like the grand scope won't be felt like it was in the theater. Like even if you have a huge TV, like it doesn't feel the same, like especially IMAX. Like I didn't get to see it on IMAX, but I can only imagine seeing that movie on IMAX and then buying it and watching it at home. Like it just won't feel the same.
I will say, if you do have like a beefy sound system, though, I think you'll still be able to get a great effect from it for sure. Piero, what about you? What were some of your general thoughts?
I also really came out of it just feeling very pleased. I didn't really see any of the promo material going into it. I tried to force myself to just go into this experience not knowing anything. I didn't know anything about Oppenheimer going into it, so just learning about the trauma that he had to go through, and Christopher Nolan showing the true psyche, or just putting yourself into the point of view of who he was and the trouble that he had to deal with. It was pretty well done, and pretty scary stuff, but
horrifying.
Yeah.
It's it can be a very horrifying film at times, especially towards the end. But yeah, it was a great theater experience. Piero and I got to see it together in IMAX. It's a very it does its job in the IMAX setting for sure. I would like to go see it in the 70mm print as well, just to get the full experience as Nolan kind of intended for audiences. But yeah, see it on the biggest screen you can, or even in just the like any of the PLF theaters, like AVX or like large format or whatever's available. And it's worth it, I would say. I definitely recommend it if you're a big Nolan fan, if you're a fan of historical events. It does a very excellent job at a dramatization of those events, like everything leading up to the bomb testing and everything. Not getting into too much spoilers for it, but like just masterfully done. the tension was crazy. I was like clenching my
Mhm.
sweaty fists the entire time. It
Totally.
was brutal. But yeah, I would say there are things for me personally that I think, like, honestly, I think it could have maybe story wise been suited better in a limited series format to truly get the full package in terms of like all
Mhm.
the different subplots and all the different characters. This
Especially like
cast is
Aftermath,
insane.
right? Because they really don't touch on Aftermath like at all.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
really zip
spoilers, but I
through.
mean, this is like a historical, like this has happened, so there's not really
Well, yeah,
spoilers, but they really don't get into anything. Like they brief on it just for a few minutes, and that's
yeah.
really it. And I guess it's a movie about Oppenheimer, not necessarily, you know, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So I guess they get away with that, but yeah, like they drop the bomb, and then there's brief mention of what happened, and then that's really it. So
Mhm.
that's kind of where maybe some people had some gripes with it, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I think everything after that, what would you call it? Like um, the gymnasium or whatever with all the like
Yeah.
bleachers where he's giving the speech. After that, it feels like it's a lot of tying up loose ends and kind of
Hmm.
wrapping things up. But like the intertwining of some of the storylines and the editing of the film felt a little muddled at times for me. And also just like I said earlier, the sheer like size of the cast list and the characters involved, like it's crazy. I'm glad that they did edit it the way in a couple of senses of like flashing back to characters so you had a picture to put to the name they were talking about because there's so
Yeah,
much going on, right?
yeah,
It's actually for the like 3 hour runtime, it also has a pretty like breakneck pace as
yeah,
well, especially in the
yeah.
first two acts. um but overall, still really enjoyed it. Definitely would recommend. It's a very harrowing film. It is like the dichotomy of Barbie and Oppenheimer coming out this weekend. I would say, like if you are doing a literal double feature and going back to back, I would definitely say put Barbie afterwards if you haven't bought your tickets yet. It would be a very good palate cleanser uh, because like you're just sitting there thinking and like reeling over what
It's
you just
heavy.
saw. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very heavy subject matter,
Yeah.
but still very well done. Yeah, Cole, I agree completely with that. Like it's one of like the better films made in the last decade, and it's
yeah,
not something I will rewatch anytime
no,
soon, probably. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
any other? Yeah, Piero, you had something to say?
No, no, no. That I
Oh,
just
okay,
agreed with what you had to say.
gotcha, gotcha. We're all in agreement.
yeah,
In that case, I think we will wrap up our spoiler-free review there. It's a recommendation from me, I think, from the other two gentlemen as
yep,
well. Go see it on the biggest screen you can
hmm,
while it's around. I imagine, I mean, in our market anyway, it's playing through to the beginning of August. Like it's got showtimes lined up already that are sold out, might I
yeah.
add. So I can totally see this
You
movie.
have some time.
Yeah, you've got some time, but definitely like don't put off buying tickets because, like I said, their showings are selling out like left, right, and
Yeah,
center. So if you want good seating, at least, definitely get on it. So yeah, that is where we'll wrap it up. Go see Oppenheimer before you dive into the rest of this review because this is your spoiler warning for the film itself. Um, yeah, come on back once you've seen it, and you'll find out our thoughts on our highlights and lowlights. So, Piero, we'll start with you. What are some things you wanted to get into right off the bat? Highlights or lowlights?
Well, highlights. I do have to say, like Christopher Nolan really knew how to transform every single actor in like
Hmm.
into their own characters and like everything seemed like it fit well like with the time that was placed in. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I never felt distracted with every single face that I saw in that movie. Like it was almost
Oh,
like
really? Okay.
a
I think I approached that a little
yeah.
bit for me,
yeah. There was
especially
one
with some
face
of the
that I
minor
saw that I was like,
characters.
oh, that's weird, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah, there were a few that it was just like I don't know that it was really necessary to get, like, I feel like he was owing a lot of favors to a lot of different actors, and it's like, you want to just come show up on set for a day and do a couple scenes.
Yeah, like, how did he find
Um,
these people? Like, how where does that
I don't
relation.
know, man. I don't know what the connections are. Like the Roderick,
Yeah,
the actor who plays Roderick from the Diary of a
the
Wimpy Kid
Boston, yeah,
movies, Josh Peck. Like I don't know where or how he like has become connected with some of these people.
yeah.
But yeah, it took me out of it a little bit. It was definitely more uh their their star power kind of overpowered like the role they played in the movie. um like Jack Quaid as well.
Mhm.
Jack Quaid playing the bongos also was an image
Like, more than once. It's not
more
like
than
Yeah,
just a
once.
one-time thing.
Yeah, yeah.
it's true.
Some of the other characters, like Benny Safdie, I thought was did a really well or a really good job
Yeah.
in his role. And like, but like someone like Gary Oldman popping up, that took me out of it a tiny bit as well.
Oh, really? I was like just waiting for him to show up. Like, I was like,
Oh,
he's got to
really?
be in this movie. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were waiting for it.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, it took me out of it a little bit, but didn't detract too much. But sorry,
Yeah. For
Piero, I
me,
kind of hijacked.
no. Yeah, I
Cole, you go.
personally thought, like, the movie is essentially just people meeting people, and
Yeah,
there's just several introductions, so it can get a little exhausting with that.
yeah.
But
There's a ton of setup in the first like half of the
yeah,
film, right? Like it's a
mm,
lot of people meeting people and talking about other people that he's met.
yeah, and that's kind of also, like, I didn't say this, but um, there were just a lot of moments that just kind of flew over my head, and because it just felt like there were just conversations that had a lot of meaning, and
Hmm.
for 3 hours it's just hard to always be focused. But
Hmm.
yeah, I still did think that every character definitely had their moments to shine, and Gary Oldman specifically, I really did like his performance, even though it was like 2 minutes long. I thought
Sure.
I could see the true, like, sense of evil and
Hmm.
in him with, like,
Yeah, that line of like they don't give a shit about who built the bomb. They care about who dropped it,
yeah,
right? I
yeah.
dropped the bomb. Yeah, those are some like
that got me.
crazy. That was a heavy line.
Yeah, but
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I would agree. Some of the more major players I really enjoyed, like Robert Downey Jr. was amazing. Matt Damon was really good.
Mhm.
Uh, like I know a lot of people worry with Matt Damon being just Matt Damon in a lot of his roles, but I think he actually sold his character quite well.
Yeah.
He can be very like one note in some of his, not maybe not one note, but he plays a lot of the characters the same, almost like more charismatic type. But I really enjoyed uh, his performance. Yeah, Emily Blunt as well really showed up to play in the last act. Like I loved her little scene
Totally.
in the interrogation room. That
Yeah.
was fantastic.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely what, like, one of the
but
centerpieces.
others like Florence Pugh and like Rami Malek, their roles were a little less impactful for me. I find um, I don't really see how like Florence Pugh's character like lended herself to like I don't think there was enough there for it to warrant her presence, like and how her relationship affected Oppenheimer. Like I feel like we didn't quite get into the relationship side, like even with his marriage with like
Kitty.
uh, Kitty. Yeah, thank you. Um, that could have been a little bit further developed, I think, and really sold. Like what was there, I think, was a decent job for their marriage, but definitely could have used a little bit more development in a perfect world.
Yeah.
Um,
With the 3 hour run time, I'm sure that was probably one of the things they were like, we gotta kind of cut this out a little
yeah,
bit
trim some of the
because,
fat. Yeah,
yeah, it would be a little grating to be stuck in like a love triangle. I don't necessarily think I'd want that in this movie, so I
yeah,
get why they did it, but yeah, I mean, Jean Tatlock, like in real life, I mean, was a big part of his life, so you can't really cut her out at either. So
totally.
it's kind of
Yeah,
one of those things where
tricky
you either are
balancing
gonna,
act.
yeah, especially with, like you said, if it was a mini series or limited series, like then you could have definitely dove into that. But 3 hours, you can only commit so much to that kind of relationship. So
Well,
it's
and
tough.
actually, like thinking back to it now, some of the scenes were actually really well executed to
Mm-hmm.
play on that love triangle, I guess you want to call it, like that interrogation room scene with Florence Pugh on top of
And
him, like
Yeah.
that was like intense.
yeah.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, Piero, did you want to? I keep kind of hijacking
Oh.
your time. Do you want to dive into anything else,
Um.
highlight or low light wise? You want to throw to Cole, maybe?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. Like, I did like the chemistry with Emily Blunt and Cillian Murphy. Like it,
Hmm.
they really worked well together on screen. Um, yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
Cole, how about you? What are some highlights and lowlights you want to bring up?
Yeah, I mean, we've just finally mentioned Killian Murphy, but I mean, I think he stole the show in this movie. Like,
Really?
he is, yeah, I love him. Like, I think he's such a great actor. Like, Peaky Blinders is great, and all in
Absolutely.
the, he's kind of a Nolanite now. He's in a lot of his movies, but he's never been the lead role, so he finally
Right.
gets to do it here. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about him that I can't take my eyes off him when he's on the screen. There's just, yeah,
Totally.
I thought he was great. I am a big Nolan fan, so like Tenet, I didn't love it. Like it's very confusing and
Hmm.
very all over the place. So like to come back to a more realistic film and a historical background and going back to World War II was nice. And I think for 3 hours, like I never was looking at my watch, never thinking like when is this movie going to be over. But I will say probably the last act was a little slow. Lots of black and white, lots of interrogation, lots of Robert Downey Jr.'s character, which was great. But I did feel like the last act was a
Oh
little bit
no.
slow. There was times where I was like, okay, like where are we going here? It's kind of taking up a lot of time. I feel like they probably could have cut a little bit of that out, but
Sure.
just minor gripes, I guess.
Yeah. What one of my bigger gripes was the like it felt very back and forth of the uh Robert Downey Jr. black and white stuff unfolding, but then also like Oppenheimer's perspective unfolding, and like they're always like kind of like one upping each other, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, who has the upper hand? That was like felt muddled to me, like I said earlier, especially after that big lead up of it didn't feel like a super satisfying close because
Mm-hmm.
we kind of go from the like uh, emotional mental effects and the toll it takes on Oppenheimer to this like political conspiracy drama
Mm-hmm.
type thing a little
Yeah.
bit.
Kind of a
Um,
big shift.
yeah, that's what I found as well. The performances were really good though. Like I keep seeing people rooting for Downey Jr. to get a award nomination. Like he was great
Yeah.
in his role, and he got some really good material to work with. And it's always good to see him uh, in those more dramatic roles now as well, and
Yeah.
flesh out that filmography a little bit more now that he's not tethered to Marvel and everything.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, some highlights for me that I wanted to bring up. The look and the sound of the film were
Yeah.
immaculate. Like I love the like visuals in the first act of like the stars and like the atoms colliding and spinning and like the black hole and everything. That was
Yeah.
really cool and really well done. Just the sound design of everything. That whole A bomb test sequence was
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
insane. Like I love the uh effect where the bomb goes off and it's just completely silent and you just
Silent.
hear his
Yeah.
breath, right? And then you get the loud boom
Oh,
afterwards.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
crazy. But yeah, it was a very well done. I have seen a couple people say that they thought it was not well mixed, but I think it's definitely like a step up, especially compared to Tenet. Like I think it like
Way
was
better.
good. It was fine. Like I could actually hear everybody. It wasn't
Yeah.
actually that bad.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe one or two scenes, but even then I was fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Tenet, like I've seen that movie a couple times, and there's still scenes where I'm like, I don't know what they're saying. Like that's one you
Yeah,
have to watch with subtitles. Like
totally.
this one,
Well, and even then, the subject matter doesn't exactly lend itself, right?
exactly.
It's like
So
a one-two
it's like,
punch of
what is
like,
going on? I can't
yeah,
understand what they're saying, and I don't know what is actually happening with the plot. So
yeah,
this one, yeah, I don't think there was any time where I was like, what did he say compared
no,
to some Nolan movies?
yeah. It, if anything, it was more of a just the breakneck pacing of it was like it's a lot to digest
Yeah,
in at the rate it goes. Because like Oppenheimer's meeting a ton of people and bouncing all over the world, right? A lot of the time in the early parts of the film. Once you get a little bit more rooted at like Los Alamos, it gets a bit better. Um, but yeah, what else? What are some
I have
other?
another couple highlights
Sure, yeah.
that we kind of touched on the scene like right after the A bomb. Some of those scenes,
Oh yes, we have to talk about that.
I was so like when they were all cheering, I was like, oh, I didn't even know how to feel. I'm like,
Dude, that one
it,
scream is like, oh,
yeah,
dude,
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
so brutal.
And then when they're in the atrium and the sound cuts out and like he sees like the A bomb going off like that, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking
Oh
about
yeah,
it.
me too,
I
man.
was just like, oh, this feels
And the
so
like,
yeah,
it's like silent, and you hear like the skin on that girl's face
yeah,
flapping
Yeah.
from the wind. Oh,
yeah. Yeah,
that
just the
is
fact that like they're
horrible.
all excited that they did it, but they don't know the ramifications of
Yeah.
what they've done
Well,
is
and
just like so scary.
he's also you can see like he's trying to think of what they want to hear, and he says what they want to hear,
Yeah,
but you can tell he's like so remorseful about it, right?
yeah,
Um, yeah, that scene was really well done. I also actually really appreciate that they didn't just do a full on recreation of Hiroshima Nagasaki. I feel like that might have been a little on the nose potentially, or
I
like
do too.
exploitative and like just showing graphicness for the sake of it.
Hmm.
But the way they did it in that like gymnasium scene was really, really well done.
Yeah.
Um, Piero, do you have any other mentions? I'm trying to think of any other maybe like lowlights I have. I'm trying to recall.
Mm,
Um,
no.
yeah, cast was amazing, but could have used a little bit, maybe a little bit more development with just the sheer like Casey Affleck shows up like
Yeah,
randomly for like a couple scenes, and it's like okay, now he's gone. Um, yeah, uh, not much more to say. I think it's a very well done film for the subject matter. I think it handles like I think what Nolan was going for was a more personal story on Oppenheimer's perspective of the whole thing, and
yeah,
not exactly a like all sides historically accurate documentation of the
yeah.
whole event. It was very much his story, and I think that was really well done. I This is more of a minor thing, but like I wasn't actually bothered by the Albert Einstein casting. I thought the casting of him was
Yeah.
good.
Same.
Like I know a couple people found him a little goofy at times, but I didn't mind it at
Kind of
all.
was a goofy guy in real life, so I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, true, very true. Um, so yeah, these are going to be like shorter reviews. Barbie was a shorter review. There's not a ton more to say. It's a lot of movie, so
Mm-mm.
it's definitely going to be it does need to be rewatched in
Yeah.
order to fully appreciate everything and to fully digest it all.
Yeah.
But on that first
Especially with the
viewing, I
amount of
think it's really
characters,
good.
like you said, like somebody new was introduced constantly, and you're like,
Totally.
"Who's that?" And then they come back, and you're like, "Oh, okay, they're from that point." And then yeah, it does get a little confusing. I mean, if you have some World War II background knowledge, it probably helps. But
Yeah,
even then, some of these characters are on screen for like a minute or two, and then they're gone. So it's
totally. Well, and there can also be a lot of balls in the air too, of because there's like the whole like A bomb creation and everything, right? But then there's also the like subplot of the like communist
yeah,
infiltration of America too, right? That
and
whole
then
thing,
building the hydrogen bomb, and yeah,
building the
there's
hydrogen
lots of
bomb,
stuff going on.
yeah, all of the other romance subplots as well, right? And then you have cutting back and forth between the two interrogation scenes or like courtroom hearing scenes and whatnot as well. There is a lot going on in the film. So
yeah, and it's a little hard to really pinpoint what's happening and when it's happening, and like with black and white and in color. Like the black and white, I thought that was going to be in the past, but I think that's more
yeah,
emphasized.
no, it was more rooted in like perspective, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because like
I'm glad they did that, because it would have been a little bit
would have
harder
been
to
way more
figure out
confusing.
what is going
Totally,
on. Like,
yeah. And I wonder if that's why, because like I also remember hearing that they like created black and white IMAX film stock
for this movie.
for this movie. So like I guess he might have had the script written already, and then it was like, this is too confusing. We need to make a way.
What I read is he, like, all of the color stuff he wrote in first person. So that's like from Oppenheimer's view, and then anything in black and white is kind of like separated from him and what people kind of see and are discussing. It's not necessarily his point of view. So I'm glad they did it, because like, there's a lot of jumping around, and if they didn't have black and white, it would be like, okay, where are we? What's going on? So that definitely helped.
I think the post process actually handled it quite well. Like when you talk about the black and white differentiation, and then like some of the cutbacks to some of the characters, right?
Yeah.
Post really helped in that sense, and making sure the audience could keep track of everything with the sheer amount of stuff in this movie. But yeah, overall, still really enjoyed it. Like probably, I mean, I haven't seen everything from Nolan, but definitely on the top end of the spectrum for sure.
I've seen everything, and it's up there for me. So
yeah, it's definitely like a culmination of everything he's done with his work for sure. So yeah, definitely worth going and checking out. Yeah, that's where we're going to wrap up the review, I think. So go check out Oppenheimer in theaters. Make sure you go see it before Barbie if you're going to do a double feature. Yeah. So, Cole, where can the people find you?
Instagram at Cole Parkinson 4.
Excellent. And then do you have any recommendations?
Sure. I guess we'll stick with Chris Nolan. Some of his best movies. I really like Memento. Memento is great if you haven't seen that one. Another one that you got to kind of pay attention, and that one requires multiple viewings to kind of understand what's going on. And then I watched The Prestige last night, and that movie is still so goddamn good.
Yeah.
Love that movie. I think it's my second favorite Nolan film.
It's up there. I mean, I don't know. I'll have to go back and kind of rank them. I don't know. Dark Knight is still number one for me.
If I can't pick a Batman, then Prestige, I think.
Yeah, I think it's either that or Inception. But yeah, those two movies
are
fantastic.
Inception in a while, but
oh, so good.
Cool. Piero, can the people find you anywhere online?
Yeah, just follow me on Letterboxd at Movies Galore. Excellent. That's my name. So yeah. Perfect.
Do you have any recommendations? Want to jump on the Nolan train?
Yeah, I guess I could go on the Nolan train as well. My favorite personally is Dunkirk. I just think that is an all around perfect war movie, and it features sea, land, and air, and you're getting a little bit of everything at the same time, and it's just very thrilling. And yeah, definitely check that one out if you haven't. And that would be a good double bill with Oppenheimer in a way, I'd say. I mean, same
very heavy double bill.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, 2 World War II movies, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one I wish I had gone to see in theaters. I kick myself every time it's brought up that I didn't go and see it. But yeah, Memento and Dunkirk, funny enough, are 2 Nolan films I haven't seen. I've seen almost everything else. Yeah, I think I'm missing those 2, and then Insomnia, and I think that's it.
Insomnia is my least favorite.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, no, definitely check out Memento and Dunkirk. Both fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. All right. Well, you can find me wherever you're listening to or watching this episode of the No Score Review Show. If you haven't done your Barbenheimer homework and watched the Barbie review yet, then that might just be because I haven't released it. But this review and the Barbie review should be coming out, if not at the same time, then within close proximity to one another. Just want to keep going on that Barbenheimer craze. So go definitely check that one out. I had high praise for that movie as well. It's a very different movie. It's the complete opposite. So just know that. But it nonetheless a hearty recommendation for that. In terms of other reviews I have done, did a review on Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, as well as Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. You can see Cole on that episode as well. I've done some franchise in review videos. Cole has been on there as well, where we talk about the Indiana Jones franchise and the Mission Impossible franchise. Just kind of a retrospective and talk about some of our highlights and lowlights for each of those films. And we've got more summer movie reviews coming down the pipeline as well. Gran Turismo is coming up in August. The new Ninja Turtles movie is also coming up. A couple more horror movies as well. Talk to Me and the last voyage of the Demeter coming up as well. So go check those out. Otherwise, you can follow me on Letterboxd as well at No Score Reviews, or on all of the other socials at No Score or at No Score Reviews. And I'll give a quick shout out to my gaming channel at No Score Plays. If you like indie game Let's Play content, chill background noise, if nothing else to put on, then definitely go check that out. And yeah, Piero, Cole, thank you so much again for joining me on the No Score Review Show. Thank you all so much for listening and watching, and we'll see you on the next review. Bye-bye.